We also currently deploy non-lethal tasers, which are equipped with cameras. Likewise, in a few instances where this response is warranted, the incident is documented on video and audio. Moving forward, we currently have body-worn cameras in the city's capital budget with a total investment of approximately $575,000 to equip our department. We will discuss the city's plan at a future budget workshop this year as part of our public process. The City of Highland Park Municipal Code establishes the creation and duties of the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners. Commissioners are civilians appointed by the City Council and work with staff on the hiring of entry-level officers and firefighters and other employees. In addition, these members are also consulted in discussions regarding suspensions or termination of employees should that be necessary. To provide some background on me, I've been involved in law enforcement for 27 years. I'm a member of the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police, and I was recently involved with an initiative designed to address this very issue that we're talking about. Recognizing that work needed to be done with respect to law enforcement and their relationship with communities of color, the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police and the Illinois NAACP worked together to identify 10 shared principles of law enforcement. These principles arose from a process of lengthy discussions between law enforcement and NAACP leadership. They were born out of a partnership, and in fact, were completed and signed in a ceremony hosted at the old state capitol in Springfield, the very same location where President Lincoln gave his House Divided speech. In my 27 years of law enforcement, I can speak to my participation in this initiative as one of the most rewarding aspects of my career. It provided me with an opportunity to have meaningful discussions with people who have been affected by this issue. These discussions have led to a better understanding of the problems faced by communities of color and their experiences with law enforcement. These discussions have also led to the development of relationships with people like Teresa Haley, the Illinois NAACP president, Bob Moore, the Springfield NAACP chair of the Criminal Justice Committee, and Dawn Johnson, NAACP of Lake County. It is through these relationships that meaningful conversations can continue, and my hope is improvements can be made with respect to the relationship between the police and communities of color. I feel strongly about this issue, and in fact, one of the first things I did as chief here in Highland Park 2 years ago was to meet with staff, each one of them, to discuss our support for these principles and our commitment to fair policing. These discussions led to our agency being the first in the state to officially endorse the principles. Those principles state, we value the life of every person and consider life to be the highest value. All persons should be treated with dignity and respect. We reject discrimination toward any person that's based on race, ethnicity, religion, color, nationality, immigrant status, sexual orientation, gender, disability, or familial status. We endorse the 6 pillars in the report of the President's Task Force on 21st Century Policing. The first pillar is to build and rebuild trust through procedural justice, transparency, accountability, and honest recognition of past and present obstacles. We also believe in the 4 pillars of procedural justice, which are fairness, voice, which is an opportunity for citizens and police to believe they are heard, transparency, and impartiality. We endorse the values inherent in community policing, which includes community partnerships involving law enforcement, engagement of police officers with residents outside of interaction specific to enforcement of laws, and problem solving that's collaborative, not one-sided. We believe that developing strong, ongoing relationships between law enforcement and communities of color at the leadership level and the street level will be the keys to diminishing and eliminating racial tension. We believe that law enforcement and community leaders have a mutual responsibility to encourage all citizens to gain a better understanding and knowledge of the law, to assist them in their interactions with law enforcement officers. We support diversity in police departments and in the law enforcement profession. Law enforcement communities have a mutual responsibility and should work together to make a concerted effort to recruit diverse police departments. And we believe in de-escalation training and should be required to ensure the safety of community members and officers. We endorse using de-escalation tactics to reduce the potential for confrontations that endanger law enforcement officers and community members, and the principle that human life should only be taken as a last resort. Every member of the department signed their name on a document listing these principles. When new members of the department are hired, they too review and commit to adhering to these guidelines as they protect the community. We wanted everyone to know that this is who we are as a police department. These are the values we endorse, and we are committed to policing with these as our guiding principles. We made a presentation of our commitment to City Council, and we were joined virtually by NAACP President Haley. Since we made this commitment, over 160 other departments throughout the state have followed us, and the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police and NAACP have traveled throughout the country speaking about this historic partnership. To ensure this conversation continues, especially here in Highland Park, this past January, I worked with the Illinois Association of Chiefs and NAACP to engage in a discussion with our high school students. The ILACP and NAACP have hosted a number of World Cafe meetings with students throughout the state over the past year or so. These events are designed to bring members of law enforcement together with students of color in an effort to better understand their relationship with law enforcement and where we could work to make improvements. I was very interested in hearing what our young folks were feeling about this issue, and I was not disappointed. I worked with the Illinois Chiefs and NAACP to host an event this past January in Highland Park, and it was very informative. Our students impressed all of my law enforcement colleagues with their insight and willingness to share their experiences and suggestions. In fact, since that event, I've maintained a working relationship with the high school group SOAR, Students Organized Against Racism, and plan to continue working together in the fall when school hopefully opens. Police officers and their authority are regulated by federal and state laws, as well as local municipal codes and applicable court decisions. In addition, Highland Park police officers and their duties are governed by an employee manual, city administrative orders, as well as 140 police department general orders and 47 police department special orders. The department is accredited by a national civilian accrediting body known as the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement, or CALEA. As such, our policies are guided by the best practices and standards governing law enforcement as determined by relevant research and experiences throughout the country. It's been reported that the 8 Can't Wait policy should also be advanced. It's important for you to know that the city currently has policies and practices in place and or are working towards addressing these areas that are included but not limited to prohibitions on chokeholds, de-escalation training, use of force, a duty to intervene, and when at all possible, exhausting all other means and warning before shooting, and of course, comprehensive reporting. CALEA not only assists in policy creation, they also provide oversight. Participating agencies are routinely audited to ensure policies and practices conform to established standards. Every 4 years, trained assessors visit the department to provide an on-site assessment of our compliance. With respect to training, I can assure you that our officers receive a significant amount of training, both mandatory and elective, and much of that training is guided by state law. It starts immediately in the police academy, and the quality and quantity of training on this topic has increased over the years. The following list, though not all inclusive, depicts some of the things we do through training to help foster positive relationships and partnerships within our community. We start at the police academy with instruction on cultural awareness for new officers. Through monthly training online, we talk about civil rights, human rights, procedural justice, cultural competency, and constitutional and proper use of law enforcement authority. Last year, our department made a significant investment and acquired department-wide procedural justice training from the University of Illinois at Chicago's Department of Justice. We are nearing a point where every officer will have been trained as a crisis intervention team member designed to enhance our mental health response. Our officers have made visits to the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center and received information about moral and ethical decision-making, responsibilities officers have to society and to each other, stereotyping and abuse of authority, empathizing and connecting with individuals, current hate crime legislation, and review of high-profile hate crimes. We do ethics training biannually. We do citywide annual cultural diversity training. We've had the Anti-Defamation League, ADL, come out for some implicit bias training for our staff. and there's a strong emphasis on de-escalation during our use of force training. Finally, it's important to us to have a staff makeup that is reflective of the community that we serve. To that end, we work hard at the recruitment of minority officers. We currently have a department which is reflective of our community makeup, but we are continuing to make this a priority. When we test for new officers, we ensure that advertising is listed in a wide variety of newspapers and other communication medium to ensure a diverse reach of applicants. In addition, I have personally engaged with representatives from the NAACP and Lake County Black Lives Matter organizations in an attempt to enhance our recruitment efforts. The Highland Park Police Department is committed to fair and equitable policing. The members of our department truly work to ensure that we develop a department culture that demonstrates respect for all and a culture that values the rights of all people from every background. As I sit on the executive board for the Illinois Chiefs, I can say with confidence that Illinois law enforcement has been engaged with this very issue. The current president for the Illinois Chiefs has recently created a new committee, the Diversity Committee, which focuses on addressing the relationship between law enforcement and communities of color. I made sure that Highland Park had a seat at that table in an effort to be part of that conversation and hopefully the solution. Deputy Chief Bill Bonaguidi will be representing us. We are committed to making a difference in this area. It's important to know that we in Highland Park have been working on making improvements based on law enforcement's recognition and understanding of a need to better our relationship with communities of color, and that we will be relentless in our work to maintain equitable, fair, and just policing in Highland Park. I can tell you that the men and women of the Highland Park Police Department are proud of the proactive work we have done to date. We also know that more work needs to be done to ensure we maintain the trust of our community. We certainly understand the anger people have been feeling. Everybody that I've spoken to in law enforcement is angry too. My hope is that we reach a point where we can take that anger and use it to facilitate positive, meaningful change. And that change will only happen when we're able to sit down, make accurate assessments about where we stand with respect to this issue, and have constructive and honest conversations about where we need to go in this partnership between law enforcement and the communities we serve. The members of our department understand both the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead, and we are committed to building on our partnership with the community.
Thank you, Chief. I know we all value and appreciate greatly your words, but more importantly, your actions, and so appreciate that these actions have been going on, that they're not new, that this is representative of the values, the culture, the aspirations that we have for our community, and so appreciate your partnership and the hard work that you've already done and I know are prepared to do in the days ahead. So looking forward to continuing these dialogues, looking forward to continuing our work with so many of the stakeholders in this conversation and in others, and just can't thank you enough. So thank you. City Manager Newkirk, did you want to add to this?
Not this topic, Mayor. If you'd like to open up to questions of the council, certainly we could do that. I do have a COVID report and I can do that after the chief's report or at the end of the meeting, whatever your pleasure is.
Thank you. Chief, I just had one quick question, and that is just to confirm, we do have a police and fire board comprised of Highland Park residents who provide oversight. And I know you mentioned that in your discussion, but it's a question that has come up and I just wanted to highlight that piece. And also recognizing the steps that have already been taken in the realm of 8 Can't Wait, and making sure that we are providing community policing and really doing our best to de-escalate and to be cognizant of the many people that we serve.
We do, in fact, have a 3-member board that we work very closely with, and I meet regularly with, and they do assist us again, in the selection of officers, the promotion of officers, and then if there is any significant discipline or terminations, they are also part of that conversation.
And the staff liaison to that is in human resources. So they serve as the link between the fire and police department working on those positions. So hiring, suspension, including termination if necessary.
Right. Thank you. Councilman Bloomberg, I saw you. Did you have something you wanted to add or no? No? Okay. Councilman Noble.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief. One thing that you didn't mention that I've been really impressed with, and I just wanted you to be able to touch on it, is since you came on board a couple of years ago, your force has been out in the community doing a lot more community relations. And you did not mention on anything about your work where you guys are at Coffee with a Cop, and that you've been out in the community and available for community members just to stop in to have informal conversations. Also, the work you've been doing with the youth in terms of just driving around with I don't know what you call them, but the good tickets.
Oh,
I don't know. I know there's a name
sweet
for 'em.
tickets. They're
Thank
sweet
you.
tickets,
Sweet
yeah.
ticket. You're right. I just think that is a huge kudos to you. And you know, where people don't think police are approachable, you have made our force very approachable and easy to talk to. So I just wanted you to touch on that if you could for a
Okay.
second.
No, I'd
Thank
absolutely
you.
love to touch on that. And I appreciate you bringing that up. I really do. It's a very important part of what we do. And as you can see across our country, by not having a good relationship with the people we serve, we can run into big problems and misunderstandings, or dialogue breaks down. So I think it's really, really important. It was one of my priorities when I came here, was to make sure that we connected with our community, because this is a partnership. We are in this together, the community and the police. We can't do it alone. We are together in this. And so we have looked for every opportunity that we can, and trying to connect with our community. So as you mentioned, we have our Coffee with the Cops events to just be able to talk to folks and have them come in on an informal basis and get to know us. Our sweet ticket program, just so that when we gives us an opportunity to reward our youth, instead of having us come up and correct them all the time. Unfortunately, that seems to be a lot of the interactions they have with police. So we want to have an opportunity that we can recognize the good work that they do. But even our police beat coordinator program, we're trying to personalize law enforcement in Highland Park. We need our residents to have a say in how we operate, what we do. We need that partnership to be strong. And I have to tell you, in my conversations with my colleagues, I've had differing responses to what's been going on throughout the state with respect to their individual communities. And some have worked hard at maybe maintaining a good relationship with their communities, and they've fared a little bit better with this. And I do put us in that category. I think the work we did mattered. I think it's important for us, again, to know that we have people in the community that feel comfortable with what we're doing, understand what we're doing, and if they don't, they ask questions, or they're comfortable enough to talk to us. And I will share just one little nugget that came out of this. With my work with SOAR, it was a very troubling week last week for everybody. And I received an email from one of the young ladies on that group who was scared, was frightened, didn't know where to turn, angry. And the fact that she had the comfort level to reach out to me, chief of police, and a white chief of police, it made all the difference in the world for me, and I hope for her. And we then ended up having with SOAR we did a Zoom conversation to kind of process everything that was going out and to give them a place to talk to a law enforcement officer. And that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have our NAACP partnership and the meeting that we had last January. So all of those things that we do, all of those connections, and there are so many more, Pencil Day, High Five Day. I mean, there's so many, dodgeball, and we pay for that one for a couple of days after it, but it's worth it. Usually very sore after that, but it's well worth it. All of those things really pay dividends because we're connecting to our community. And so when we do go through a difficult time, I think it really it helps carry the day.
Chief, I'll just make a note for people who may not know what SOAR is. SOAR is Students Organized Against Racism. It's a club at Highland Park High School that the chief personally has been very involved in.
Thank you. I know Councilman Stolberg and Councilman Kaufman wanted to speak. Councilman Kaufman, do you want to go first?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, I just want to thank you because I do remember that even before you began, you said one of your priorities, just like you said now, is to build better community relations. And you felt that really is kind of one of the roots that needs to be really cultivated to try to establish fair and equitable policing. And also I'm grateful for your leadership, not only in Highland Park being the first to sign on to the shared principles with the Illinois NAACP, but your leadership, I know, throughout the state and trying to help and encourage other communities to do so as well. So I think that has a impact not only for our community, but also others. But also appreciate your comments that is with everything you've done and the tremendous action steps, as Councilman Noble pointed out, to try to fulfill the commitment to community relations. The recognition that there's always more that should be done and can be done to build better relations with communities of color. And just to that end, I just wanted to ask if either now or at any point, if there's anything that you think that we as members of the council can do to further support you and your department in those endeavors, or even in a broader way. I think we would be all, I can speak, I hope for the council that would be all ears and try and help that endeavor and that initiative.
Well, thank you, Councilman Kaufman. I can tell you that this council, for my 2.5 years of being here, has been extremely supportive of the community and of the police department and in the city. I think the message you continually send is one of inclusivity and that hate has no home. So you are all, in my humble opinion, doing a wonderful job supporting that message. I think the only thing we can all do, and like I said earlier, I think we're in the anger phase right now, and I think it's going to take a little time so that we can kind of heal and start talking again. But the one thing that I experience in law enforcement is people do make decisions based on their perceptions or observations. And I will tell you, and usually when they're not good or when they perceived something poorly about law enforcement, the vast majority of time, if I had the opportunity to talk with those folks and to tell them really what went on and to explain to them, what they saw wasn't exactly what they thought they saw, we've gotten past quite a few of those instances. The problem is we don't get that opportunity all the time because people may complain or may talk to their neighbors about something they saw and they may be interpreted a certain way. And I could go on and on about examples of that. And that hurts us, unfortunately, in law enforcement, because there's no question that we've made missteps in our profession. There's no question. And we own that, and we have to deal with that, and we have to fix that. No doubt about it. So I'm not saying this in any way to excuse law enforcement, but there is also that whole part of things that people perceive and then talk about in a negative way, and then maybe they don't understand or they viewed something that they thought happened. So all I'd ever ask is if anybody in the community has a question, please come see me, talk to me, talk to the city manager. We are open, we are transparent. We assure you that we want everybody in this community to feel safe, to feel that they're getting a fair shake, that they're getting fair treatment, that they're being protected. All of that is what we want. And so if that's not happening, or if there's a perception that that's not happening, then we want to fix that. So if in fact it's not happening, we want to fix it and have the opportunity to make it right. On the other hand, if maybe it's a misperception, we want the opportunity to address that too, so that we can get the record straight. So if anybody comes to you all and has questions, please send them to us so that we can kind of talk with them.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councilman Stolberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to expand a little on what Councilman Noble and Kaufman said. And certainly we are very fortunate to put our trust and our safety in the chief's hands. And in a short time, he has not only represented Highland Park well to our community, but to some state and national organizations that we are very fortunate for his commitment. And the chief has used words tonight and in our interviews with him 2.5 years ago about being a part of the community and to connect and feel comfortable with us. And while we're talking about the national picture and the situation in the country right now, we did have a protest close to home just yesterday. And I think it's so important to recognize not only what the chief is doing as a chief of police and representing our community to the nation, but he's also a community member. And when he uses words like approachable and comfortable, here's a man who's a part of our community, is walking downtown in civilian clothing, and children and adults are comfortable coming up to him, speaking to him, asking them questions. And I think that while we have a dedicated 27-year professional who's serving on some of these very important commissions and boards, let's not forget he's one of us so close to home too. And that is part of what makes him so special and what he brings to the force and his fellow officers so approachable and so special and ultimately accountable, because he's a community member just like us. And he takes a lot of pride. And I personally want to say thank you for what you've done, Chief, with yourself and with your staff in a very short time. And I hope that we can continue to progress in the coming years as much as we have in the short time that you've been with us.
Thank you, Councilman Stolper.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you so much, Chief. Our work is cut out for us.
Yes, it is, but we're ready for it. So thank you, Mayor.
I know. Thank you. City Manager Newkirk.
Thank you, Mayor. At every, as the council is certainly well aware, at every city council meeting since March 9th, we've been giving an update to the public about our COVID response efforts, reminding the public that we are still in the pandemic, and we are working diligently to keep the public safe and to help reduce the spread of this virus. We remain in communication with the state, Lake County Health Department, and others. The health departments particularly are closely monitoring this fast-changing pandemic. And again, our priority is the health and safety of our residents, the public, and we continue to use every available resource to us to help minimize the risk of the spreading virus and communicating pertinent information to the public. I would encourage individuals to regularly go to our website. We're on a daily basis, we're updating information, and we are issuing electronic communication to the public every Tuesday and Friday, and more frequently as necessary. Today, the health department's reported more than 125 cases right now in the state of Illinois of COVID cases, and about 5,800 deaths in Illinois. Closer to home here in Lake County, there's 8,600 cases and 316 deaths. So this information is updated on a daily basis by the Lake County Health Department. And so we encourage individuals, you can go to our website and get the link to Lake County where you can get this information on a daily basis. Very simply, couple of simple reminders that are so incredibly important for the public to do, especially now that we're in the next phase of the Restore Illinois plan. Face coverings are mandatory. And so it is very important that individuals wear face coverings. We're careful not to say masks because it really is a face covering. Hand washing and physical distancing. So those are really the three important things that we just can't stress enough that individuals do. Face coverings are required for any location that's in a public place. This includes common areas of multifamily buildings, common areas of office buildings, elevators, hallways, laundry rooms, things like that. Now, we're not going in those private properties and enforcing it, but it is something that is very important and set forth by the state as part of the state guidelines. And then outdoor face coverings are required when individuals can't maintain 6 feet of separation. So for example, in Port Clinton, downtown Highland Park, on a nice sunny day, that area is very crowded. And so it is important to keep that face covering there for the protection of everybody. So hopefully, as everyone is aware, we are in phase 3 of the state's Restore Illinois plan, which identifies a number of different things, one of which is gatherings of 10 or fewer are permissible as long as social distancing is in place. And so information about the Restore Illinois plan is also on our website. And then just to remind the public that COVID testing and treatment is available to all Illinois residents, regardless of immigration status, including those individuals that don't have insurance. There is a testing site in Waukegan at 102 West Water Street that is conducting 750 free tests a day. And so they are available. You can go there from 8 to 4, whether you're symptomatic or asymptomatic. And again, that is a free test. Please look at our website, which has information about what you need to know before you go. And then more locally, if someone's looking for a local option, the CVS in Highland Park off of Route 41 is offering self-swab COVID tests. Now these testing supplies are limited and appointments are required. So again, check with CVS if you're looking for a local option, but the free option is available in Waukegan at that Water Street address.
Councilwoman Stone, did you have a question?
Yeah, just one quick clarification, Gita. The masks or face coverings are required to cover your nose and mouth both. They shouldn't be on your chin or your neck or something like that. And you mentioned indoor versus outdoor. So my understanding is that they're not required outdoors unless you can't maintain that distance. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
If you're going for a walk with a family member, something like that, you're not required to wear the face covering.
That is correct. Right.
Thank you. I've gotten questions, so thank you.
Thanks.
It, oh, Councilman Bloomberg, did,
Yes, I wanted to reiterate that when you go out in public, even though you may not anticipate physically being within 6 feet of other people, it's very difficult to know what's actually going to be the circumstance and the situation you're heading to. And so I would reiterate and encourage that you bring a face covering with you and use it until you establish that you're going to be able to maintain that amount of spacing in a public space. Thanks.
of course. Thank you very much. As it pertains to business news, since our last meeting, we have approved 32 applications to use the city's public right-of-way to help business maximize their service to the public. So this includes outdoor dining areas. We've approved 5 fitness applications. So the state now is allowing outdoor classes to be held subject to specific guidelines and regulations. So we've made public property available for that purpose. Retailers, offices can place tables, chairs, merchandise. The city council approved at our last meeting relaxing our sign code regulation. So signs can be placed in the public right of way. So on our website is an application. We are asking individuals to complete an application just so we know who they are, what they'd like to do, how they'd like to use that public right of way. We just want to make sure that it meets safety standards. It is a free application, so we're not charging anything, and we're turning around these permit applications. If you don't hear from us that day, you hear from us within 24 hours. So we're turning them around very quickly. And we are regularly evaluating everything that we are doing. And so communication is key. And so if individuals have a question, a recommendation, feedback, please let us know. We are in regular communication with our businesses to make sure that they are aware of these options and then just to assess how things are going. We identified initially 10 areas and then we went down to 9 areas between the Central Business District and the Ravinia District, where we've identified where individuals can go and picnic. And so they can pick up refreshments and food and go to either a local park or we've identified parking areas where people can gather safely with their face coverings and all precautions, but enjoy the Highland Park community and everything that we have to offer there. What I'd like to do is specifically talk about the Roger Williams area because that is an area that we did close the street to provide service to several area businesses. So restaurants, certainly as the council is well aware, are not able to have any indoor dining. So they have been relying on curbside pickup until phase 3. And then phase 3 did allow for outdoor dining options. So we as a staff proactively looked at different areas in the community where we could provide street closures. This was one area that was identified. So there were several different restaurants in the area that we had identified could possibly use this area. And what we have found since then is not only for Ravinia Brewing, BWB, Viaggio's across the street, and Happy Sushi, those specific restaurants right in that area have an opportunity to use this property. But we also found, and we've heard feedback, for example, from Baker Boys, where their customers are enjoying picking up something to eat and then taking it to this area where it's been described as kind of this, nice European feel where people can bring their own chairs and tables and sit with their immediate family. Groups have to be less than 6 people or less per the state's guidelines, but they can enjoy sitting in these close groups and just enjoying the outdoor and everything that our community has to offer there. We did hear from a couple of businesses. The cleaners, for example, had asked to open up parking in that area. And so what we met as a staff this morning and looked at a modification to that site plan. So if you'll bear with me for one moment, I'm just going to share my screen just to show you. Oops. All right. You're not seeing my screen now, are you? No, okay. You know what? Okay, I'm so sorry. It's not working, but we will put this on the website. But basically the closure areas between Burton and Pleasant. And what we are recommending doing is actually minimizing that area that would be closed to the public, and moving the far eastern barrier a little bit further west, to make space for the cleaners, so they could continue to provide curbside pickup, or they could pick up from the alley. And then it would also allow spaces on the north and south of the street, just west of Burton. We heard from individuals that there was a concern with speeding in the area. And so the police department is going to set up the speed trailer in that area, which will identify the number of vehicles and the speed of vehicles. And then we will also have an increased police presence in that area to make sure to provide education and enforcement for anyone who violates the speeding regulations. There was a question about whether or not the fire department would has sufficient access through the detour route, which is primarily from Burton to Highland to Pleasant. The fire chief has been involved in our meeting about 3 times a week to go over all these plans. And so he has indicated that access is sufficient. Highland has a parking restriction on one area, and so it does become challenging sometimes if there's a UPS truck or an Amazon truck or a landscape vehicle parked on one side of the street. So they do have to proceed with caution. But it is comparable given the volume of traffic and the amount of vehicles that are on Roger Williams. And so we have not, we're not seeing any negative impact as a result of our emergency response in that area based on the street closure. We are regularly continuing to evaluate this. And so our recommendation as a staff is we would modify the closure of the street and just reduce it again on that far east side. Our business development manager has reached out to the businesses, and so that feedback is ongoing right now. Based on the businesses that she contacted this morning, they have expressed support for continuing to keep this closure in place, and so they do support that. And again, we'll continue to evaluate it. Do you want me to pause right here? Okay.
Yes, we have a few people with questions, and I have a question as well. So I know we're working so hard to try to support our local brick and mortar food establishments, restaurants, and so forth. I know there have been a few conversations about, hey, can we do a pop-up food truck in our neighborhood? First of all, we know that that flies in the face of the gatherings of 10 or more. But can you talk a little bit also about why that's problematic?
Well, so we have heard from individuals that almost want to do a block party and have a food truck there where people don't have to travel. And again, that is not something that we would issue a permit for because it is in violation of the state's guidelines to be able to have a food truck parked, taking the public right of way. And this is an important time where we are stressing to not only our residents, but to the entire region, the importance of supporting local business. And so we're asking individuals to support our retailers, support our businesses, restaurants, just to help during this very challenging time.
Thanks. Councilman Holloman, I saw your hand up.
I just wanted to thank the city staff who took a really proactive approach in identifying these different regions or zones where we could have outdoor dining. As a resident of Ravinia, I know it has been used and appreciated, not just by the businesses, but by the residents who've had a chance to reconnect and see each other after a long, period of isolation. So I think from our perspective or my perspective, I'm in this neighborhood every day. I drive this route every day. It's a minor inconvenience for a major benefit for the community, and it's well appreciated. So thank you for everything that you've done to make that work very quickly. You guys were on top of things, and I know everybody is very grateful and has taken advantage of it.
Thank you. Councilman Noble.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Gita. In going back to I think it's a crossover thing that I want to state, having to do with the open spaces. I've only heard positive feedback from residents who have used it, and the businesses themselves have been very appreciative that we proactively did this. To the food truck comment, I know it was brought up in my neighborhood. I know there's another one working on it. Is there some communication that we could do perhaps in our weekly, like tomorrow, to suggest that residents who want to do something where they all go and they get something that our businesses are all delivering still and very happy to deliver, that they consider shopping local before they invite a food truck onto someone's driveway and have everybody line up down the block, and maybe put that regulation in. This goes back to years ago of food trucks not rolling into our business districts unless it was a planned event. I think we're back to that again, and maybe it needs some clarification. But these are the same people who desperately want to see our restaurants stay open. It would be so appreciated if they could order in from them.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Do that tomorrow.
Thanks.
Councilman Holloman.
So I also think that there's more space available, that maybe we're not doing as much promoting of it. I mean, the Roger Williams space is obvious, but I don't know. I mean, we've approved like Port Clinton, right? And some other, and I'm not sure we're promoting that to the degree which we've made it obvious in Roger Williams, and maybe just making that more obvious for people so that they know that they can get their stuff downtown and go and sit. Might be helpful as well.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
And then just two other quick things. Finance Director Logan presented our economic impact report at the last City Council meeting. We are going to be providing another financial report on June 22nd, specifically identifying some of the projects, programs, and initiatives that we are looking at either deferring or just postponing altogether as a result of this pandemic on the city's budget. So that'll take place at the June 22nd Committee of the Whole meeting. And then finally, I've been in talking one-on-one with elected officials. I understand that there is an interest in modifying the virtual meeting rules for all of our virtual meetings, not just the City Council, but all of our land use commissions are meeting. So as you may recall, the City Council did approve by resolution virtual meetings. That resolution was drafted by our Corporation Council on April 9th. And so if there is an interest in modifying those, we can certainly bring something back for the council's consideration at the next council meeting. Specifically, the feedback that I've been hearing is an interest rather than asking the public to submit their comments either in advance or during the meeting in writing, then they would have an opportunity to address the elected or appointed board during that meeting. They would still be limited to a 3-minute time limit, which is consistent practice for what we've done. But my understanding is that's of interest of the council. I just wanted to make sure.
Councilman Holloman, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this is already happening by default in the ZBA and the Housing Commission, but the chairs have decided that they're allowing public participation. So I think we're just kind of making it more consistent across the board, because it's hard to tell a chair in a meeting that they can't recognize someone if they want to.
Thank you. Councilman Kaufman.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just you might have said this, but just for clarification, would the public be able to participate, as they would at a council meeting when a matter is up, if there's something that's being considered for which they could give public input, as opposed to just only during business from the public, even if there's an agenda item to which they want to speak?
That's certainly up to the mayor and the council, however you want to set it up. In terms of a legal obligation, the only legal obligation is under business from the public. That's only legal time the public has a legal right to address. But if it's something that you want to allow for every agenda item, we can certainly include that in the rules.
I think what we're trying to do is mirror what our practices have been in the past. So however we need to move that forward, I think it should be reflective of what we've done in practice in the past.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody else have comments on this item? Okay,
Okay. So we'll bring that back for the next meeting.
great. Thank you.
That concludes our report.
Did you have more that you wanted to mention, Geeta?
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay, continuing on, we have, speaking of business from the public is our next item. Have we received emails presently? And I believe there are opportunities throughout the meeting as well. I'll let you continue.
So if individuals wish to state anything for the record, they can email us at this time at cityhp@cityhpil.com. And I checked before and I'm checking right now. So we have no email communication as it pertains to city council meeting, and we did not receive any voicemail messages either, Mayor.
Okay, and that opportunity continues throughout the meeting, so we will check back with you. Okay, continuing with our scheduled business, items 1 through 10 have been grouped together for omnibus consideration. I believe Councilwoman Stone wanted to pull item 10. Is that correct, Councilwoman?
I would like to pull item 10, and can I also just ask, is number 7 as amended? There was an email earlier today about some changes to
Yes.
item 7.
Right, so item 7
Thank you.
is as amended, and Corporation Council, we can simply call it item 7 as we received that in advance of this meeting, correct?
That is right, Mayor.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm just going to make a quick comment on item 1, and then I am seeking a motion on items 1 through 9. So why don't we first get that motion on the table, and then I'll throw in my comment. Is there a motion to approve items 1 through 9?
I'll move to approve items 1 through 9.
Second.
Okay, great, thank you. So my comment concerning item 1. Item 1 is acceptance of the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2019. And I just wanted to state from the beginning of that report that we had our independent certified public accountants issue an unmodified opinion on the city's financial statements for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2019. This is the highest standard of opinion that a municipality can achieve. And I want to further state that in response to the coronavirus pandemic economic conditions occurring in 2020, the city is conducting a comprehensive analysis of the city's 2020 budget and developing a preliminary proposed budget for 2021 that may reflect decreases in revenue and fund balances. And the city will continue to take steps to ensure fiscal sustainability in 2020 in preparing the 2021 budget and in estimating longer-term impacts by reducing expenditures, deferring non-essential expenditures, pursuing shared services, joint bidding, and increased efficiency in operations, and analyzing fees to achieve greater cost recovery. I just wanted to have that on the record for folks who are wondering, where do we go from here? But that being said, items 1 through 9 have been grouped together for omnibus consideration. We have a motion and a second. Are there any comments or questions on items 1 through 9? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilman Stolberg,
Aye.
Councilwoman Stone,
Aye.
Councilman Kaufman,
Aye.
Councilman Bloomberg,
Aye.
Councilman Noble,
Aye.
Councilman Holloman,
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 7 ayes and no nays. Items 1 through 9 have been approved. Item 10 is a resolution annulling the covenant recorded against the property located at 827 Pleasant Avenue regarding bonus floor area coverage. I know Councilwoman Stone, you had a question on this item.
I have a concern about this item. The first sentence of the bonus FAR regulation review in the packet states that the purpose of the bonus FAR provisions is to provide property owners an incentive to keep existing housing stock as opposed to tear downs and rebuilds. And I think that this is exactly the type of thing that bonus FAR regulation was trying to prevent, tearing down an existing home and then ending up with a larger home. I understand that they're tearing down one house rather than two, or perhaps have already torn one down. But I don't think that this is the intent of the bonus. Even with they're entitled to a larger home by virtue of just having a larger lot because they're consolidating two lots. And even at the maximum required or the maximum allowed size on that larger lot, this would be the fourth largest home in the area. And if you add the bonus FAR, it moves it up even further. So I understand it's legal to do this, but I just don't think this is the intent of that bonus FAR regulation.
So do you want Joel Fontaine to answer this? What comfort are you seeking, or what would you like to ask specifically? Or do you just want to vote no?
Mayor,
Yes, Corporation
if I
Counsel.
may, the facts of this case present a unique circumstance, and I think it would be a good idea, since the applicant is promoting a certain justification for this, that you let the applicant tell their story in their own words. I know that their attorney, David Meek, is here and perhaps has been elevated, Gita, to a panelist status. It would be my recommendation in this instance to let the applicant justify, if he can, his position and provide comfort, if he can, to the councilman, because we're really not talking about a legal issue. It's pretty straightforward. It can be done. The council would just have to remove the existing restrictive covenant, but you may want to hear it instead of by staff from the applicant.
Sure. Mr. Meek, do you want to comment?
Please, thank you. Yes, I do think this is not inconsistent with the bonus FAR regulation. I do think that there are unusual, not precedent-setting facts that help to support this. The prior owner of 827 Pleasant Avenue invoked bonus FAR in connection with building permits that he filed in 2011 or 2012, I think it was. And through a bit of subterfuge, and this was laid out in our zoning variance case that my client, the current owner, laid out in 2015. The prior owner pulled building permits for an addition that met the bonus FAR limitation. So he invoked bonus FAR, but then he enclosed a second-story patio after occupancy inspection and prior to closing on the sale to my client to create a bedroom, and then delivered what my client had contracted to buy without my client's knowledge, and walked away from the deal, this prior owner. My client, in connection with a porch patio that needed a permit, found out that the FAR was in excess of the bonus FAR because there was this enclosed room. And he went to some length to correct that by getting a zoning variance. So a variance in 2015 was granted for the house as it's been built. If the prior owner had sought the variance, he may or may not have gotten it, but he would have never invoked bonus FAR. So we've maintained that the bonus FAR was, you could look at it as never really utilized because it was actually never built or delivered to use the bonus FAR. And then it was regularized through a variance. And so that's one justification or one request for this ask, that you annul the covenant that was established so that my client can do an addition which does the way he's worked it out, it would require a portion of the bonus FAR that would be available on a lot that's the size he currently owns. He currently owns 2 lots, and you previously approved a plat of subdivision to consolidate. The addition he's building would use bonus FAR, but it would actually be less FAR than the house that exists plus the house that was recently torn down. So my client is seeking to sort of clear the history of the previous bonus FAR and use, in this unusual circumstance, bonus FAR again, but he can't do that unless the covenant is annulled. And then he would enter into a new covenant in connection with the issuance of bonus FAR, which would actually restart the 20-year period that those covenants are applicable to protect the home. With respect to demolition, I can respect Councilman Stone's concern about some part of the purpose of bonus FAR may be to encourage additions rather than demolition. I would point out that there may be a loophole in your ordinances, which we're not trying to exploit, but it may exist if you consider the issue of the demolition concern. But if the previous owner had never used bonus FAR, I wouldn't have to ask you, and we'd be able to use bonus FAR because it would be a consolidated lot, there'd be a single home, and it would have never been invoked before. So that's my attempt to summarize how we got here, what we're asking for, and just to remind you that we see this because of these very unusual and very specific facts not being any precedent for other considerations of the use of bonus FAR.
Thank you. Corporation Counsel, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, it would be, I think the point of Mr. Meek's presentation was to see if the council members were satisfied with the answer. They may have questions for Mr. Meek.
Any questions for Mr. Meek? Councilman Holloman, Stolberg, then Bloomberg. Please unmute yourself.
Sorry. I just want to say I am satisfied with the explanation, and we've already approved the consolidation at this point, correct?
Yes.
Of the 2 lots, is that the case? So we had already agreed in principle that we were going to allow this coming together of 2 lots into one. And the addition is preserving an older and beautiful home. So I would like to move forward with it. And if when we're ready, I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Councilman Stolberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I too shared some of Councilman Stone's concerns, and I also appreciate Mr. Meek's comments. You know, if you look at it on the face, and I'm looking, each lot by itself would have 2,080. The applicant with the application of the bonus FAR is 4064. My concern is not necessarily this particular application. The applicant tore down a house, obtained a demo permit, owned 2 lots, brought the 2 lots together in a subdivision, all done properly, all approved. And I think they would be then, by removing the covenant of the bonus FAR, as 827 now would be having an addition, I think they would be entitled, as the code is written, to that bonus FAR. However, I would suggest that maybe at some point in the future, as Mr. Meek even pointed out, that the code does seem to conflict a little bit with itself on what Councilman Stone said. The purpose of the bonus FAR provision is to provide property owners an incentive to keep existing housing stock. So while 827 is an existing housing stock, they are potentially going to benefit from the bonus FAR at the expense of tearing down the neighbor. So maybe we need to look to readjust something in 150 that identifies that if the house is torn down to create that 2-lot combination, maybe there is some mechanism to exclude that from a by right ability to have that bonus FAR. Maybe it does need to go to the ZBA and prove a hardship or something on that order. So I'm supportive of this tonight. I think the applicant has done what the law requires them to do and the code requires them to do. But I think even in Mr. Meek's, comments, I think maybe we should take a look at this and see if there is something that we can button up a little bit stronger so that we're not conflicted with this type of questioning. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So Councilman Bloomberg and then Councilman Stone.
Thank you. I think Councilman Stolberg put his finger on what may be my discomfort. I'm not determined one way or the other. I feel a bit conflicted. I think there is a good point that the FAR bonus is intended to be a benefit if you don't tear your house down, to encourage the preservation of property. It's not intended, the failure to qualify for it isn't intended to be a punishment. It's intended to be an encouragement. And it may well be that it's reasonable for this property to have that additional floor area beyond what they would be entitled to build now that the properties are consolidated. But I'm concerned about unintentionally, and I don't think this was intentional by anybody. I'm not suggesting anything else, but I don't think it serves the policy purpose of the FAR to grant it under these circumstances. As I understood it, Mr. Meek, when your clients previously appeared in front of the Plan Commission and Corporation Council, you may correct me if I misunderstood, but I think at that point, the Plan Commission, not the Plan Commission,
The ZBA.
Right.
they had an opportunity to lift the covenant at that time. Is that correct?
Well, maybe I could answer that, Councilman Bloomberg.
Okay.
Once the ZBA granted the zoning variations, there really was no longer a need for the covenant because the covenant related to the bonus FAR. But the ZBA did not have the authority to lift the covenant, and Mr. Meek's clients did not have the ability to lift the covenant unilaterally. What could have happened back in 2015 is Mr. Meek's clients could have come to the city council and sought the relief that they're seeking tonight, and that is to remove the covenant because it became moot back in 2015. That didn't occur, but that's not a penalty. It's just that they continue to live with the covenant.
Okay, I follow that. So I guess the problem is the covenant attaches to the property, which is all now one property, whereas the use of the FAR originally was used up, although it was used up as a zoning variance. We're seeking to use the FAR bonus that would have attached to the property where the house is torn down. So you've got a covenant that runs for the whole property that's preventing the use of an existing potential bonus. Do I understand that correctly or no?
Yeah, well, the covenant runs to just the 827 property.
But now that they've joined the properties, doesn't it run as to the entire property?
Well, it effectively precludes the use of bonus FAR for the entire property because that's what the covenant says.
Okay, so that's the problem.
Effectively, yes.
And that's what Councilman Stolberg was talking about. So I guess I'm at that point where I'm okay with this property and we should look at it in the future, but not have that discussion tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Stone.
I agree with Councilman Stolberg and Councilman Bloomberg that we should have the discussion about closing this loophole in the regulations.
In the future, though.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments on item 10?
So there's a resolution. There's a resolution in the package, Mayor, if you want to.
Right, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve item 10 as stated in the resolution in the packet.
Thank you.
Second.
Took that.
Okay. Will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilman Stolberg. Councilman Stolberg.
Aye.
Councilwoman Stone.
No.
Councilman Kaufman.
Aye.
Councilman Bloomberg.
Aye.
Councilman Noble.
Aye.
Councilman Holloman.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 6 ayes, 1 nay, and item 10 is approved. Thank you. Continuing on with other business. Item 11, consideration of a motion to extend the emergency declaration for the City of Highland Park originally entered on March 14th, 2020. This is continuing in partnership with the state of Illinois and protective orders in face of the COVID-19 pandemic.
And
I'm
so we're
seeking
moving
a
to
motion.
continue that until when?
Until our next council meeting, which is June 22nd.
The adjournment of your next council meeting.
The adjournment of our June 22nd, 2020 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion or comments on this item? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilman Stolberg,
Aye.
Councilwoman Stone.
Aye.
Councilman Kaufman,
Aye.
Councilman Bloomberg,
Aye.
Councilman Noble,
Aye.
Councilman Holloman,
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 7 ayes and no nays. Item 11 is approved. Keep wearing your masks and washing your hands. Is there any business from the council this evening? Seeing none, we conducted business from city staff. Is there any further business from city staff?
No, Mayor.
Okay, I am seeking a motion to adjourn the city council meeting and following that adjournment, we will head to our committee of the whole meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the council meeting is adjourned. I now want to call to order the special city council committee of the whole meeting for June 8th, 2020. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Stolberg,
Here.
Councilwoman Stone,
Here.
Councilman Kaufman,
Here.
Councilman Bloomberg,
Here.
Councilman Noble,
Here.
Councilman Holloman,
Here.
Mayor Rotering.
Here, we have a quorum. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting, May 26th, 2020?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 And the minutes
I'd
are,
like to vote present on that.
thank you. Those minutes are approved. Continuing on with scheduled business, our first item that we're talking about tonight is right-of-way vacation consideration for 207 Woodland Road. Per the city's right-of-way vacation policy, committee of the whole feedback is requested if there's an interest in vacating the right-of-way at 207 Woodland Road. City staff has no concerns with the applicant's right-of-way vacation request. Several conditions of approval are recommended. Am I calling on Joel Fontaine?
Yes, please.
Hi, Mayor. How are
How
you?
is life on the dark side of the moon, Director Fontaine?
Thank you for your understanding about that. The background is not ready for tonight's meeting, so we've used that. If I can, Madam Mayor, I will share my screen for a short presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, please let me know if you can see this presentation now.
Yes, we
Oops.
can.
Okay, great. All right, tonight's topic is 207 Woodland Road, as you've just called, regarding a request or a petition to vacate a portion of the right-of-way that is to Woodland Road.
So just put it in presentation mode, and then that way the screen will be larger.
Okay, I can make it larger. It makes it hard.
Just presentation mode.
Okay. Hold on. Can you see that?
That looks great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so the context, just a quick context map. We're south of Roger Williams Avenue, near Sheridan and Lyman Court at the corner there of Woodland and Lyman Court. You can see it highlighted here. That's 207 Woodland Road. The right-of-way is just to the south of that property, as you see here, is highlighted in red. So that is the area. It's about a 6,000 square foot area. It's 33 feet wide. It's a right-of-way that has not been improved. You'll notice in this picture here, which is from our GIS, that there is a driveway, existing driveway to 207 on the right-of-way. So in terms of zoning, if the council is interested in this matter and the petitioner were to obtain this, section of right-of-way. It would add about 6,000 square feet to the petitioner's property. It would also eliminate a front yard setback requirement along the southern property line. So essentially, it would create a larger buildable area on the property and would allow development potentially closer to abutting properties to the south. All told, additional land use rights of about 1,300 square feet of by right building floor area could be constructed on the larger property. In terms of the abutting properties and what would happen to them, there'd be no change in zoning requirements for 219 Woodland Road. That is the property to the west of this property. Lyman Court at 589 Lyman Court and 588 Sheridan Road. Their north and south property lines would become side yards, and their overall buildable area would increase. Not their actual lot size, but the buildable area that would be allowed because of the change in the right-of-way no longer being a right-of-way. And we note also that IDOT controls Sheridan Road right-of-way, and if the petition were to proceed, the application would be referred to IDOT for comments as well. And just to step back just 1 second to just show you where the abutters are that I just spoke about, as you can see here, to the south 589 Lyman Court, and then 588 Sheridan, and 219 to the west. In terms of how does staff look at vacation requests, we take a look at our long range plans of all types to say, hey, is this area thought of in the future to be used in any way, shape, or form for connectivity of roadways or otherwise, or some pedestrian vehicle or otherwise. And so we did do that document review. And we didn't find that there was anything specifically proposed or planned for this particular segment of right-of-way. We also ask, as our normal review does, what the comments are from various departments, and Department of Public Works did not identify this in any master plan as a potential connection to Sheridan Road. Neither did Community Development. We also note that IDOT control of Sheridan Road and the presence of the ravine right next to there would make the connection unlikely. Then part of our review is also to say, well, we own the right-of-way. What do we have within the right-of-way that we would need to have some type of agreements to protect and maintain should this happen? And we do have a couple of important utilities there, a water main and a sewer line. They both could be addressed by a dedication of a utility easement to the satisfaction of Public Works, a standard type of thing, and we certainly could work that out. And we would maintain rights to access and to do whatever type of work to maintain and improve those utilities at any time we would need. Generally speaking, we did a broad outreach to staff as we typically do. There were no objections from fire department, police department, Public Works Forestry, or community development staff. Public Works Engineering had some comments related to the utility easement, a special license related to landscaping, and a desire to align or realign, I should say, the existing driveway, and the need for a proper plat of subdivision should this move forward, which would all need to be part of a package before this could actually be implemented. We do note for the applicant's benefit and for council's knowledge that steep slope zone and other city codes are applicable to the subject property and the proposed vacation area. So we just want to be clear about what's out there. There are some sensitive areas. Staff recommend the council that if council chooses to move forward with this consideration, the petitioner should submit an appraisal from a licensed appraiser along with an offer to purchase the property. A mutually agreed upon purchase and sale contract would then be negotiated if council so directed. And finally, applications for plat of vacation, plat of subdivision to consolidate will be presented to Plan and Design Commission for formal consideration and recommendation to council per standard subdivision code requirements and in accordance with whatever the purchase and sale contract was. That's all I have, Mayor. If there are any questions, I am here to answer them. And I believe that the petitioner may be in the audience, although I don't have the list of participants. At this stage, I just remind the council that this is just a preliminary stage. Is the council interested in pursuing this or not. There's no obligation in any way, shape, or form. The applicant did provide some additional information late today that I forwarded to the city manager. I don't know if that was received by the council.
Joel, I did not send it to him because it was this afternoon.
It was late, yeah.
Yeah, we can summarize that. And Mayor, the applicant is in the audience as well, if you have any questions for them.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? I don't see any.
Okay.
So I guess the question is there interest by the council in moving forward with this? I guess thumbs up if you are.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I'm seeing more than 4 people raising their thumbs. So we will
Okay.
move forward, and you've given them their next steps. And so
Yes,
we
we
will
have.
wait for this to return. Corporation
Mayor?
Council. Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I just want to, one point, if we do proceed, and there are a number of steps, including the determination of fair market value, we wouldn't be doing this by a purchase and sale contract. Joel, I just want to correct
All
that.
right, we vacate the right of way and then do it in different detail.
Yeah, the village, the city council would adopt a vacation ordinance. We'd have an agreement accompanying the vacation that would account for and the reservation of easement rights and other conditions such as the price to be paid.
Okay, we'll update our summary of process, Steve. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Madam Mayor, may I just say a couple of more things before?
Sure.
So the applicant did email indicating that he had made some contact to his neighbors. We would advocate that he do that. And just one other more nuanced aspect of this is that it is a 33-foot right-of-way that is being proposed to be vacated. The applicant or the petitioner is looking for the entire right-of-way. It is not entirely necessary to do that. I just put that out, but that could be discussed in more detail later. But I just put that out to the council. There may be a way to do less if the council chooses for whatever reason may arise with any neighbor. And I am not aware of any at this time.
Okay. And I know the applicants have joined us. Don't know if they have any additional comments or just.
Thank you, Mayor. This is Jeff Smith and my wife Ellen, and I guess we're not on by video but by audio. So it's.
I'm promoting them right now.
Okay.
There we go.
Sorry, Mr. Smith, promoting.
That's okay. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks. So a little bit different way to be introduced to the community. I feel like I'm an expert in FARs and covenants right now, but thank you for hearing our petition. And we do look forward to moving into Highland Park. We currently live in Winnetka. We love the community in Highland Park, and we knew about this right away prior to the purchase of the property. And so your staff has been excellent in terms of meeting with us and making us aware of all of the questions, issues, and details around this. So no surprises, but we anticipated that because there was no strong objection from Public Works and others, that at least it would be worth pursuing. And so we acquired the property on March 31st with that in mind. And so what we'd like to do is to have this parcel added to what we purchased, and would give us the proper setbacks. So first of all, conforming on the south side. Secondly, proper setbacks for a 2-car garage just to the west of the structure as it is now. So currently it has a 1-car garage. It's really not suitable for anything modern. And so we wanted to do that, and this acquiring this right away would allow us to do so. One other point I'll make, because I listened to all the earlier conversation, is we love the house and we love it as it is. And it's a 1925 Tudor, and we intend to keep the character of the house and to make sure that whatever we're permitted to do allows that to be front and center. And so we currently live in a house that we renovated 23 years ago, very much in keeping with its original prairie style, along with all the forestry requirements that we needed to do. We love the ravine and been very engaged with Ramesh and with Ron and others there on the staff to make sure that we do whatever we can to observe the proper conservation for the property. So we're pretty excited about it, and we'll go through the next steps. And thank you, Joel, for taking them through the presentation. We very much agree with all the conditions, and we've talked about that. And so we understand that our next steps would be to do a proper plat of subdivision in terms of the parcel itself, and then also a third-party appraisal for further consideration by the council. So thank you for that. Your staff was very complimentary, very helpful, and thorough in the process, and we look forward to going to the next step.
Terrific. Well, we look forward to welcoming you to Highland Park, and I just urge you to keep a very close eye on that Kaufman guy across the street, who's also joined us on this this call this evening.
That's great. Thanks.
I'll try to keep it down. The neighbor.
Appreciate that.
Especially those parties. But
You're welcome.
welcome. Thank you. Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to talking with you. Thank you. Okay, our next item is a discussion concerning the previously postponed spring cleanup. And we are going to have an update on the status of rescheduling the all-important spring cleanup for the fall, I believe.
Yes, that is correct. So I'm just promoting Assistant Manager Rob Sabo to panelist. And then Rob, you'll introduce Josh and Walter too, right?
Correct. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor and Council. I'll be brief this evening. Joining us for our meeting this evening is Executive Director with the Solid Waste Agency of Lake County, Walter Willis. In addition, from Lakeshore Recycling Systems, we have Josh Connell, Managing Partner, as well as Municipal Manager Bill Kenny. Let me share my screen so that you can see some of these highlights.
I think it is frozen, Rob.
Right.
I think Rob's connection isn't very good.
Yeah,
It's coming in and out as well.
Can you guys hear me now?
Sort of.
On and off. I think he's frozen.
No.
Can you
He
hear me now?
absolutely is. I can see his computer is frozen also. Gita, do you want to just take us through the background and timeline that are presented on the screen, and we can?
Sure, absolutely. Certainly, Rob, I'm just wondering maybe if he'll have a better connection if he just turns that off. So as the council is well aware, we canceled the spring cleanup working in coordination with Lakeshore Recycling as a result of the pandemic. We have been in communication with Lakeshore and identified 4 dates in October where the wouldn't call it spring cleanup, we'd call it a fall cleanup at that point, where the event can be rescheduled to 4 dates in October. And so we can move forward and advance those. I did have one-on-one communication with each elected official, just making sure that that is in fact what is continued of interest. Another option that we did explore is promoting the bulk pickup and increasing the amount of bulk pickup that a resident would have an opportunity to dispose of. And so that was certainly an option as well. Based on the majority of feedback that I heard based on, again, one-on-one conversations, there was an interest in rescheduling the spring cleanup to the fall. And again, that is assuming based on the state of the pandemic of where we're at that point. We'll certainly stay in communication with Lakeshore, but assuming we are either in this phase or moving on to phase 4, then we would schedule that in October. So we just wanted to make sure the council was comfortable with that approach. And if there was any other questions, comments, recommendations that you may have.
I just ask that we be cognizant of the high holidays. I think they're at the end of September, maybe beginning of October. So if we could just be conscious of those in our scheduling. Councilman Noble.
I'm just curious why we're waiting till October. when people have been cleaning
my-
out through this whole pandemic and we're worried that it may come back and we'll all be inside again by October. And I don't want to put LRS's staff or truck drivers at risk again. So I'm just curious, is there a reason that it's not August or July or now or even earlier than October?
So I know Bill Kenny's on the phone, and Josh or Rob, do you want to?
So we did discuss in it, you know, if I do know, yeah, Josh and Bill both are on. Bill, are you available?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. It's nice to be here with everybody. Good to see you, and thanks for allowing us to participate in this. Councilman Noel asked a good question: is why can't we up the date to a summertime period? And there's a few reasons for that. I would say the main reason is it's a matter of operations. As you know, this takes place over 4 different Saturdays. And this is very unique to Highland Park. We don't have any other municipality that stretches it out to that point. And it's fine with us that that's the case, but to allocate trucks like that takes quite a bit of time to get it set up operationally. So that would be one main reason for that.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
The decision, I mean, if there was some efficiency that could be gained by having it 2 days instead of, I mean, I think the division into 4 days was for the convenience of the waste hauler, not for the preference of the community, correct? I don't see any reason we have to spread it out over 4 days, as long as you offer a junk day. That's what people need. If you can do it all on one day, okay, that's fine with me. I don't see a reason to spread it out. So if that's the limiting factor there, I would think that the community would much prefer to have this in early July, all on one day, than to wait until October.
It would be such a massive undertaking to accommodate the city in one day. We essentially, even when it's spread out over 4 weeks, we dedicate every Saturday, we dedicate, gosh, I want to say, Josh, we have about 18 trucks for every Saturday. So to reboot it and try and get it done in one day, I'm not sure if it's feasible. And part of
that wasn't clear from what you were saying. It sounded like it might have been preferable to do it in fewer days, but you're saying, no, that's not the case.
Yeah, I just don't think, honestly, it's plausible to do it in one day. That might not be chapter and verse. We're always willing to consider whatever the city throws our way. We consider, we work for the city and we want to accommodate the city, but I also don't want to, that's something I would have to run up the flagpole in my operations department, just because, again, I mean, we take in so many tons of material on each Saturday that we do. To do it in one day would be very, very taxing. And also, I just don't know if we have that many trucks that would be able to accommodate that.
That makes perfect sense. I was just responding to what you had said.
Mm-hmm.
Councilwoman Stone?
Thank you. At some point, Josh or Bill, we had talked about consolidating into either 2 or 3 weeks instead of 4. And I thought you said that wasn't feasible. But if it is in the fall, that would seem like maybe a good compromise. And then my second thing is I hope that we will promote the bulk pickup. I've heard from a lot of people who don't know about it so far. And I've been trying to let people know that they can put out one large item with their trash any week or every week if they want. So I think if people know that, they may be more inclined to use that as well in the meantime.
Right. Josh, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, I was gonna, can I be heard?
Yes.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. Nice to be in front of all the council members, mayor, as well as city manager Newkirk. Highland Park spring cleanup is like no other. It's hard to describe. We do a lot of spring cleanups. We pick up nearly 500 tons over a 4 Saturday period. We use a minimum of 18 trucks with 2 drivers on every, or 2 people on every truck. So we're talking about 36 individuals. We have 60-hour rules that we can't exceed. So that means we have to get our regular work done, plus have guys available for a Saturday, a minimum of 36 individuals. And it's the tons too. You know, we're picking up about 125 tons every Saturday. Now, if we schedule it in the fall, because I'm convinced in my experience with it that a third of the waste isn't even from Highland Park. I just think it's people that just know about it. It's well advertised, and we just pick up. You know, we see a lot of garbage just in between homes. So in the fall, will it be reduced volume, which will would allow us to do it in 2 or 3 days? We could try it. We might not finish though, and then we're kind of stuck with garbage that might linger for an extra few days to a week. If that's okay, we could definitely try it over a 2 Saturday period. We'll put as many resources as we can, and see if we can get it accomplished.
I would add the COVID factor, which is now every single household has had plenty of time to go through their stuff. So I suspect it won't be less. I suspect it will be more. I know Councilman Holloman, you had your hand up, and Councilman Noble, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. I don't have any reason to move this down to 2 days or 3 days or anything. I was just responding to what you were saying, that the 4 days was burdensome. So if you would prefer to do it over 4 days, I think that's great. I have absolutely no problem with that. That's how we have always done it. It's all, this day may be unique, but it is no surprise. We have been doing this for years and years, and this was part of the original contract. You guys are well aware of the requirements. My question goes back to why is August, July, September not an option? Why October? For the reasons that Councilman Noble stated, I'm concerned that we're pushing it back too far and we're going to be on another potential lockdown situation and it'll be canceled again. And I really want to avoid that because people have paid for this service and count on this service. And I would like to see us do it sooner or later. And if we are at the point where we're in October and you say we can't do it for safety reasons, which I would support as well, what else can we do in that situation? Are we going to offer a dumpster day or someplace where people can bring their waste? Because we can't just eliminate this if there's a way to not eliminate it.
Well, if it helps too, I mean, we did add a free bulk item.
Nobody
there
knows
are people
about that.
taking advantage
It doesn't
of
mean anything to people. The bulk item, well, I think it's great that you offer that. It is very poorly understood, and it's not the same thing as being able to put all your stuff out at one time. That's just the way it is.
Well, and I think we do have our work cut out for us that we can let people know, what that means and continue that campaign in addition to scheduling this pickup. So I think we're all on the same page at this point. Councilman Noble, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, so thank you. And I want to say to you guys, look, we know you have been working through COVID and it's been difficult and we appreciate it. In the spirit of be a kind human today, thank you I can just speak for my drivers on my route. They're awesome. I know this has just been a challenging time. To that point, Mayor, that you just brought up about the single bulk item pickup. You mentioned that you're not doing this big spring cleanup, this big day in other communities. I'm just curious, other than, and I think we've got to ramp up this bulk, one item bulk pickup because people had no idea when we canceled it. They were like, I didn't know you could do it in the first place. And we've been at it for a very long time. So it's really weird. And we communicate lots of things. I don't know why it's not out there. I do communications for a living. For the life of me, garbage is our most popular topic. And I still can't figure out why they don't know. So we'll have to work that out. But my next question for you guys is what are you doing in other towns post-COVID? Everybody's been cleaning up. I mean, this is, other than the big garbage day and saying, here, you can have 2 free bulk items, what's another answer that we can add on top of this? Because I really am concerned about, look, I appreciate 4 days in October. Great, you want to do it. But I have a funny feeling it's not going to happen. So what can we do on top of it proactively between now and then to try to help people out who just have everything in their garage?
Well, I mean, first of all, we're seeing, and I'll get the numbers for Rob here later this week. We've got at least a 15% increase in disposal since the middle of March. So residents of Highland Park are getting rid of a lot of garbage because it's a sharp increase in the weight of the garbage. And I drive around Highland Park often. I live next door in Deerfield. My in-laws are there. I see bulk items out every day of the week, but Wednesday, which we're not in Highland Park. So maybe it's the minority that aren't really sure about this bulk item and we could communicate it more certainly, but I see it every single day, especially on Fridays in that neighborhood. Every single week, there's tremendous amount of material out there. And believe me, residents have put stuff out during this COVID-19 pandemic. And as long as our drivers can take it, we've kind of taken it, even though we had a kind of suspension on bulk items. If our drivers felt safe and they had their gloves on and they didn't have to bear hug it, we took a lot of extra items there. What other communities are doing, many of them are just canceling it or postponing it till next spring. We do have some communities that had a spring and a fall cleanup. They're canceling the spring, having the fall. And then we had some communities that are just lucky that maybe had an August or September. We did cancel our June cleanups and pushed them to July. We did that back in March. It's a fluid situation. And it's a fluid situation the way I look at Highland Park. We may say, you know what, September works. How about if we do it the end of August into September? But we are battling some other issues, just so you know, as well. Right now, I'm fearful of putting two individuals on a truck together, working in a cab, in the truck, not 6 feet apart. We've taken a lot of major precautions within our company. And the nice thing is our drivers work independently. So those guys don't have to do too much, but we are a little leery of putting individuals together. And we're waiting to see what happens between now and July, where that's our next commitment is for a spring cleanup where we need two individuals on a truck together.
So I'm seeing Bloomberg, then Holloman, then Kaufman.
Thank you. So I guess the bottom line, I'm not sure we've gotten a definitive answer. Is it possible that you might be able to put together this cleanup towards the end of July or into August or late August?
Always a possibility. It's just something I couldn't commit to today.
Okay. Is there anything from our city that you would need to help you do that?
No, not from Highland Park. It's really an internal operational issue, like Bill had mentioned. We would have to move a lot of things around to have 4 Saturdays available to us to accommodate the volume and the manpower for 4 Saturdays.
Okay, thanks.
Councilman Holloman, then Kaufman.
Yeah, because it sounds like you've rescheduled some other town for July, and perhaps this is more of a scheduling issue than right. So, the ones that were June got moved to July, but we were scheduled back in April and May. It seems like maybe we should bump to the head of that line because we were first, and we're getting pushed all the way back to October. So I think we were ahead of the folks in June. Maybe we can try and work so we get sooner.
It's a possibility. Again, we have St. Charles, 12,000 homes compared to Highland Park's 9,400. We have half the volume on a cleanup. So it's really a combination of the amount of time needed for Highland Park. It's not easy to schedule. All our other communities are 1 day, or we're doing it in conjunction with the pickup, but we can manage it throughout the week because the volume per home is not significant. And again, this is my experience. This is just my opinion. I truly believe a lot of the volume just doesn't come from Highland Park, which contributes to such significant volume that we pick up.
Councilman Kaufman.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I think, first of all, thanks for everything you guys have been doing during a tough, obviously, situation. And I think you know how important the spring cleanup is, or whenever the cleanup is going to be, hopefully as soon as it can be, to our residents. So I think we've conveyed that hopefully loudly and clearly, and we just appreciate everything you can do to try and schedule it as soon as you can. I realize you can't commit to it tonight, but so we probably just need to leave it at that. But we appreciate you trying to do it, accommodate. It's become really especially important this year, of course, to our residents.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll stay in touch with Rob, and we'll see what we can come up with sooner than October.
Sounds good. Councilwoman Stone has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to note 2 things. Walter Willis from Swalco is on the call in case he has anything to add. We may want to he may have more information about what other communities are doing.
Right.
And I want to make sure that people know that not only is there the weekly bulk pickup, but the city's recycling center has reopened for styrofoam, compact fluorescent bulbs, and electronics drop off Tuesday mornings from 7 to 1 and the first Saturday of the month, same hours.
Great. Thank you. Walter, welcome.
Clothing is still closed.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Probably only about 25% of the towns actually have a spring cleanup in their contracts. So most of them rely on the weekly bulk item, and people rely on that. But I've seen some of the towns have postponed their events, but want to hold them later, just like you guys are talking. So I think really trying to push that weekly bulky would be helpful.
We will do that. Absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on rescheduling the spring cleanup? I hear the need for 4 and the desire for sooner rather than later. And hopefully we can move forward, and really, again, appreciate the professionalism that your group brings to refuse collecting. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no closed session items, and we can always approve closed session minutes at our next committee of the whole closed session. So with that, I am seeking a motion to adjourn this committee of the whole. We do not usually have public comment during this meeting, and just out of an abundance of caution, Gita, have we received any other public comment from anybody?
One moment, Mayor. Let me just check. Nothing. We have no emails.
Okay, they have heard plenty from us. Well, great. Seeking a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.